Again, thank you for attending the 58th Rural Life Conference. I hope you got a lot out of the morning session, the speaker, and the concurrent sessions that we had, workshops. We're going to, again, proceed with program with Dr. Marilyn Bailey giving the meditation, and greetings from our former Dean and Director, now interim Vice Chancellor for Academics, giving the greetings. And be back after that. Thank you.
I bring to you the words of a life poem for meditation. For many of us struggle with maintaining good nutrition and physical wellness, do we not? Yes. The title of this poem is Healthy. You are what I love and crave for so badly that nothing is ever enough. Somehow creeping into my head that it's for the best of me. Complicated it gets. My choices are weakening. Delusional I'm getting. For that thing speaks louder than my sounds of pain. A joy that never lets me rise. I'm somehow in the middle of what's right and what's wrong. Letting nothing else matter but you. It's so suffocating, but I just can't overpower what I let inside of me. Oh, you are what I love, yes, even though I know it's not healthy. Recent research suggests that more than 1/3 of American adults face this issue of being overweight, and 4 to 5 million of children around the U.S. are overweight and face greater risk of heart disease, cancer, and other health and emotional issues. So as we stand at this great university in service, starting service with the youngest of our next generation, let us work to sustain our communities and promote healthy lifestyles. And let us be ever mindful of that traditional greeting of the mighty Maasai African tribe, which begins with, "And how are the children?" Let the efforts of this conference raise the consciousness of all in attendance and in the community at large. Let us put forth the effort to feed ourselves and our children in a healthy way as we build them up to being the next generation of healthy and sustainable communities. So that when the people say, "And how are the children?" we can give their reply, "All the children are well."
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Dr. Garner, platform guests, former colleagues, associates, and friends. I am so pleased to be with you today. It's just like coming home. I have missed my association with all of you and have been so pleased to hear or read about the many progressive moves that are being made in the agricultural and human sciences programs and organizations throughout our state. This 58th Annual Rural Life Conference has been both inspirational and informative. I have thoroughly enjoyed both of the workshops that I attended. The conference theme and workshop titles are so appropriate for the challenges that our communities face today. Yes, the world is facing change. The nation is facing change. Arkansas is facing change, and our communities are facing change. Today, you have been challenged to address the change in ways that promote healthy lifestyles and sustainable communities. And I am anxious to hear our luncheon speaker address this issue. Welcome to the luncheon for the 58th Annual Rural Life Conference, and I wish you all Godspeed.
Well, we come to that time now that we can serve ourselves. Ms. Coffey is going to direct us on how we should proceed to the table. So as she comes forward, I would like to make this announcement, though. The peas that you will be served are from the East Arkansas Enterprise community. They were donated. And the sweet potatoes that are on the line are from the UAPB Agriculture Demonstration and Outreach Center. So produced by UAPB. With that, Ms. Coffey will give directions on how we can start the luncheon. And I also like to ask you to give a round of applause to our caterers. Today, the caterers for this event is Rice Catering, and I think they did a fantastic job.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce my beloved uncle, Mr. Jack B. Crumbley, who is the commissioner associated with the Arkansas Minorities Commission, and also former Arkansas State Senator, who is going to do us the honors of introducing our guest speaker for this luncheon. Thank you. And now, my uncle.
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, thank you, niece. I tell you, your niece loves you regardless. I tell you, it's really great. Thank you very much. To Dr. Garner, to Dr. Bailey, Dr. McCrae, and everyone that's on the dais, it's an extreme honor and a great pleasure to have the opportunity to stand before you this afternoon and introduce our speaker. But first of all, a little housekeeping chore. You did see that I stood up and I had this booklet with me here, somewhat of a lengthy, and even though Dr. Garner threw that little strong hint about being out of here by 2:30, I'm not going to let that make him shorten my introduction. But no, really, I do understand that I'm standing between you and going home, and definitely do not want to prolong the introduction. But I do want to say this. I had the honor of meeting our speaker in the year of 2009. I was serving in the Arkansas State Senate. And this young, charismatic, dynamic young lady assumed the directorship became the executive director of the Arkansas Minority Health Commission. At that time, we were dealing with health disparities and about the length of life and how that impacted life and the quality of life of minorities across our great state. You know, since 2009, I've grown to admire and respect our speaker. I respect her for her passion, her knowledge, and always her zest and zeal to improve the quality and the level of delivery and the quality of life and the improvement of health care for all Arkansans across our great state. She is certainly a person to be revered and admired. And as I go to my seat, I can tell you this. When I was selected to serve on the commission, I thought was a great honor. But each and every night as I fall asleep, and I can tell you this, the state of Arkansas is in good hands, and we as minorities, and every minority, and everyone across our great state, you can rest easy at night because you have a champion whose voice will never be silenced, and that is the speaker that I bring before you. So if you would, I know you need to stretch a little bit. Let's all stand and give her a standing ovation as she comes. Our fearless leader, the director of the Arkansas Minority Health Commission, that is Dr. Idonia Trotter. Hear ye her.
I tell you what, now that's a great introduction there. And you did real good. You wasn't too long.
I wasn't too long.
You did real good. I'm just so pleased to be here this afternoon, coming back to a place that two of my children were actually born here in Pine Bluff. I had the opportunity to live here from 1995 all the way through 2008. And so when I come in the room today, I see so many faces out in the audience. I can't start because I wouldn't be able to finish. But so many people who were wonderful and mentors to me through the process. I was just a young girl here. I'm only 29 now, by the way, but plus, then I won't be telling the story, right? But I really appreciate Pine Bluff. I appreciate UAPB. And a young girl coming from a city, El Dorado, Arkansas, where my mother had a 6th grade education. My mother had a 10th grade education. My father had a 6th grade education. And I can tell you that when I came to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and I came in the midst of so many educated people, so many educated African American people. Down in the South, I think our city was only about 13% African American at the time. But when I came to Pine Bluff and was greeted by such a wonderful crowd of witnesses, I tell you, it was wonderful. And when I come back today and I see some of those same faces that embraced me, young lady who had no knowledge of what Pine Bluff was about, and some of the professors, Dr. Benjamin in her absence, and Dr. Davis, and all of those who were here at the time that I was here, I'm humbled, I'm thankful. Many of the things I get to do today that I think is wonderful, and have the passion to make sure that we're being that drum major for justice, that drum major for equality and healthcare in Arkansas. I can truly say that my ability to do this stands on the backs of those of you who went before me, and I want to thank you all for being a blessing to me as I was here in Pine Bluff. I get an opportunity to come back often, and I'm thankful. I want you to know I'm humbled today. I want to thank your new chancellor in his absence, Dr. Lawrence Alexander, and this panel here, those who have put this wonderful event on. Let's give them a hand for the hard work that they have done in making this a wonderful occasion. Well, I won't be before you long, although I do have a little booklet here I need to share with you. I'm gonna make it brief because I really believe that when you believe in something good enough and hard enough and long enough, it doesn't take too long to really share with individuals how important it is that we don't give up, that we don't stop, that no matter how bleak the situation seems. I heard, and if you look at, when you talk about health care in Arkansas, when you talk about health care in the nation, and when you look at the statistics that's related to African Americans and Hispanics, and now our new Marshallese population in the state of Arkansas and Northwest Arkansas, but many of you may be aware or may not be aware that Pine Bluff is becoming the 2nd largest city for Marshallese population right here, and we're beginning to do some outreach with that population in Pine Bluff. When you see these numbers and you see that they're so bleak, sometimes it would be easy to give up. But I can tell you right now that after doing this for a number of years, 5 years, I still have not given up. I still believe that we would be able, if we work together, to see changes in the health care of minority citizens in our state. You know, the mission of the Arkansas Minority Health Commission centers around the notion of ensuring that all minority Arkansans have access to health care that is equal to the care that's given to non-minority citizens in our state. And then our goal is to seek ways to educate, address, and prevent diseases and conditions that are prevalent among minority Arkansans. The commission back in 1991, and many of you may know the name of Dr. Joycelyn Elders, who was the reason why this commission was formed, even though at the same time, she being the director of the health departments, the chief director there, and creating that Office of Minority Health in the health department, in her wisdom, she recognized the need for an agency that would be set aside from the governor's the governor's table that could be more independent to advocate for minorities. We do that advocacy all across the state. I can tell you in the last year, and Senator Crumley has been with us on many of them, we've done over 50 public forums telling people about the major health issues of today. And what would you anticipate is one of the biggest health issues that we're facing right now today in Arkansas? Your legislative body is up there working on this issue. What is that issue that we're facing here in Arkansas? The insurance, the private option insurance, the health insurance marketplace, the Affordable Care Act, whatever we call it. It's one of the most historical pieces of legislation that has the ability to make the most widespread difference related to minority health and health disparities that we've ever seen. And it's so important that this piece of legislation remains in place. And I can say that. I know that I'm a state director and I work for the state, but I've also been mandated by the legislative body to look at issues that would improve minority health. And we don't know, my Board of Commissioners, we know no other issue in health care in this generation that would improve the health of not only minority Arkansans, but the health of every Arkansan in need of health insurance than this particular issue. You know, it's befitting today that we're here talking on the last day of Black History Month, 2014. And I want to encourage us all to continue to have, or for those of you who may need to initiate it, I want to inspire you to embrace a vision today that looks to a future in which we can all say, as educators, as public health leaders, as practitioners and lay people, and maybe there's faith leaders and health ministry leaders in the room today, I want you to leave here inspired. Now, I know you're getting a little sleepy, so I'm working on you. I'm trying to work you up just a little bit, so go with me. Every now and then, my pastor says it's okay to say amen when you feel something. But for the health of those that we serve, many of us that are here today, our salaries and the work that we do come from the taxpayers. And every day I go to work, I'm there and I'm recognizing that the reason I'm able to buy a bar of soap is because of the taxpayers of this state. The reason I'm able to pay my rent and pay my light bill or whatever we have is because the salary I get is based on the people who sent me there and allowed me to be in that state position. So I take it very seriously that we make sure that we work for those individuals. We want to embrace the idea, get the vision of the idea that although we are facing changing times in our quest to promote healthy lifestyles, and what I believe is truly one of the most historical and challenging legislative times that we've ever seen in the last decades. We are committed to being the sounding bells, the drum majors for equality in Arkansas. That every person that's sitting here, and you're in whatever department that you are working in, whether it's nutrition or whether it's in the agricultural department, that every time you come into work that morning, that you recognize that we're here to be drum majors. You know, there's people that will never sit at the table of decision, but they depend on those of us who do to make the right choices on their behalf. And I want us to encourage each other to not only look at that for us today, but to look at in that theme that you have today of sustainability, that as we work on healthcare issues here today, that we recognize that we're working on these issues for not only ourselves, but our children and their children and their children's children's for generations to come. So in particular, I think it's befitting to focus on health issues during Black History Month. During this observance month, we get to talk about and keep in memory the significant individuals and contributions of African Americans in history. And of course, in Arkansas, Dr. Joycelyn Elder's been a mentor of mine, and many others, some I see in the room today, mentors of mine who I think should go down in the walls of African American history. We get to reflect on those individuals and those people in history. We also get to look at those social issues and challenges that African Americans are faced with today.
And as we embrace 2014, those challenges remain many as it comes to the overall health in minority populations. You know, Martin Luther King Jr., a civil rights activist who led a nation and the world towards embracing a vision and a dream of equality for all, he once stated in a speech to the Medical Committee of for Human Rights in 1966 that of all the forms of inequality, and of course he dealt with inequality in so many different areas, but he said of all the forms of inequality, injustice in healthcare is the most shocking and the most inhumane. Ladies and gentlemen, I came to tell you today that some 48 years later, we are still addressing injustices. We're still addressing inequality in healthcare and the health of rural and minority Arkansans and citizens, even throughout this nation. We're facing, like never before, historical legislation changes that will have a major impact on the overall health of all citizens of our state. Again, the Affordable Care Act, the private option, every day we should be watching, we should be looking, we should be talking to our legislators, we should be helping them understand how important it is that if you work 2 and 3 jobs, and that if you have children and you can't afford to buy insurance, how important it is that we take care of those who are taking care of us through their tax dollars. I was one of those. When I lived here in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, my husband was a truck driver, and I was in school. I was in law school. I was in a master's program at the Clinton School of Public Service. And I did what work I could, but doing a dual degree, I couldn't work. And we had 3 children. And I can tell you that my husband was a hard worker. And I can tell you that I was a hard worker with the contractual work that I could do on the side limited. But we still had to make really hard choices. We had to make choices that either we buy the food for the children or we buy insurance. And guess which one came to the top? And if it wasn't for our kids first, I don't know what we would have done. We had solace just knowing that at least our children were taken care of. So for many of you in this room today, the idea of making life better for those in the future, that idea of catching hold of a dream and a vision, I ask you not to be weary. I think that's what I'm trying to say, in well-doing, because we're going to reap. It may take us 10 years. It may take us 20 years, but this thing is going to happen so that our children and our children's children can benefit. I remember when I lived here in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, I worked for, thank you, I just believe it. I believe it. And I think sometimes all it takes is just that idea. When that mindset gets going towards belief, then things happen. But I remember living here in Pine Bluff, and at the time, I worked for then Congressman Jay Dickey. Many of you may remember I worked for him the whole time he was in office and managed his office here in Pine Bluff. Minority liaison, I was a field representative for him. And I remember this little group that's over here, I think on 6th Street, the Area Agency on Aging. And they would come to Jay every year, year after year after year after year, advocating on issues of importance to elderly health. And I remember being the point person in his office to sit in those meetings, that quiet person just taking the notes but being so observant. And I remember those young ladies, or mature ladies, coming in, and Jay, no, we just talked to you about this 6 months ago, but this is our annual bi-yearly meeting with you. And we really don't have much different to say to you other than we still believe that this particular act is important. And we hope that you understand how important it is to the seniors in your state. Year after year after year, Jay would vote against that particular bill. But then that last year, they came in again, and I always wondered, I said to myself after the 3rd year, I said, ain't they tired? He's saying the same thing, they're saying the same thing. Why are we doing this over and over? But what happened in the midst was that mindset began to change because there were people that were constantly advocating for the issue that maybe that legislator didn't believe in, but that last year, he voted the way they wanted him to vote. He voted the way that would be beneficial in that particular case, in their belief, to the citizens and the people that they represent. Tell me how many of you have that type of tenacity for what you believe in, whether it's health care, whether it's the elderly, whether it's helping the youth in your community. Tell me how many of you would take that time to do it. I can tell you that that may center for some of you on taking a personal decision to live a healthier lifestyle, just personally for yourself. How many of you will make a commitment? And to encourage even your children so that as they're seeing the example that we set, that they then take on that example. Or maybe it is to encourage the development of a health ministry in your church that will assist the church in ministering to the whole man. For others, that passion may be working with nonprofit organizations that advocate for improved physical activity, that advocate for better nutrition and increased access to healthcare services for people living in your local community. I can tell you for the Arkansas Minority Health Commission that centers on health disparities and inequities that are still so widespread in so many areas for African Americans, Marshall Islanders, and American Indians even in our state. We focus on what we can do in collaboration with our community health partners to see parity in health and healthcare, and we don't give up. We just keep fighting because we can see one day a vision of the overall betterment and the better picture of health that we will have for all Arkansans in the future. It doesn't matter how long it takes. We're going to be that drum major. We're going to be that sounding cymbal out there working with our legislators, working with our local communities to improve the fact that in 2012, Black Arkansans were nearly 50% more likely to be obese than white Arkansans. To improve the fact that heart disease mortality rates are 20% higher among Black Arkansans than Caucasians. To improve stroke mortality, those rates are about 50% higher in Black communities than other communities. To improve the fact that minority Arkansans consistently have higher rates of diabetes than their Caucasian counterparts. The mortality rates related to prostate cancer are 3 times higher among Black men than they are among white men. Can you tell me that we have lots of work to do? So we don't need no tired soldiers out there working on the field. Rather, it's in the departments that you are spearheading, that you're the dean over, or whether it's the classes that you are the professor over, and the need for young people to get better education, the need for young people to improve themselves and become those agents of change that we all know we need in our future society. We can't give up. Do y'all feel encouraged? Just a little bit? You know, sometimes you can do this work so much, and I'm talking about me, because sometimes you can do it so much and you can work with people that can be so interesting. And you can get discouraged, but I want you to know that the Bible talks about encouraging yourself. How many of you can encourage yourself today in the work that you do here at UAPB? Come on now, how many of you can encourage yourself? You don't have to have a choir behind you in order to pat yourself on the back and say, you know what I did today really helped that young person. I believe that we all are agents of change, and I just want us to catch a hold of that. You know, I was in a meeting one day in Little Rock in 2012, and I was at the Arkansas Department of Health, where we were looking at this red counties phenomena. And in Arkansas, that red counties phenomena is that the fact that people who live in Phillips County at the time, if you lived in the Delta over in Phillips County, your life expectancy is about 10 years less than people who live in Benton County in Northwest Arkansas. It's just sheer from just because you're born there and you live there, you work there, and you grow old there, you will live 10 years less according to the statistics. And we were addressing this issue, and some of you may not know that Senator Crumley, when he was the chair of the Senate subcommittee on minority health, no one in public health really knew that idea of red counties very much, but when I came on board, that was our partnership. We went around the state for 18 months, educating communities, educating public health leaders of how this impacts us. Why is it that just because you're born on the east side, that your health has to be compromised because you weren't born on the west side? That just doesn't make sense, and it's not fair, it's not right. And what's interesting about that statistic is that there was an epidemiologist in the room who assisted with creating this Red Counties report. And the epidemiologist in attendance shared with the crowd there. He said, we all know that social determinants of health impacts the health of communities. Poverty, those are social determinants of health. Educational attainment, unemployment, job security, early childhood development, disability, housing, transportation. However, this epidemiologist went on to say that as we reviewed this report and as we looked at it on a national level, she indicated that 6 years difference is a huge difference, not to even mention 10 years. She said that it's the kind of thing that you would expect to see in third world countries, but yet we have it right here in Arkansas. She said when looking at this issue across the United States, there is nowhere else that you see such a dramatic difference in disparities. Benton County is considered to be at the very top in the U.S. as it relates to overall health. And you would know that Phillips County, the Delta counties, not just Phillips, but the Delta counties, many of them are listed as one of the worst, Phillips County in particular at that time, one of the worst counties, not only in Arkansas for health, but in the nation. You know, I'm just an idealist. Somehow, some way, I just believe that in this lifetime, working together, that something can be done to change the face of this drastic disparity in our state. I just believe that if we stay committed and if we leave no stones unturned in our efforts to improve the health of our citizenry, black, white, who doesn't matter, brown, that together we can make a difference in the health of those that we have been blessed to have the positions that we have to serve. At the Arkansas Minority Health Commission, we strive every day to ensure that all Arkansans are a picture of health. And although all the data for so many years for African Americans have been bleak, I still believe that the dreamers in our society, I still believe that the dreamers in this room are invaluable assets to helping move the pendulum in the right direction. And whether that pendulum moves just a little bit in our lifetime, we've moved it a little bit so that the next generation can continue it moving. So if you're in the room of naysayers and those who say, you know, it's been this way all this time and this is just the way it's done, I want you to begin to search around your room and look for the dreamers in the room. Look for the visionaries in the room. Look at your table, look at your neighbor. Look at your neighbor, look for the visionaries at your table. You see them right beside you. Right beside you. They're all in this room. You know, the Bible, you're in this room. You're a visionary. You have the power, you have the ability to make a difference. You know, the Bible talks about a people without a vision perishing. We got to keep the torch of the dreamers burning. Martin Luther King isn't the only dreamer. He left a legacy and he laid a foundation, but many of us are the dreamers during this Black History Month. And having our dreams of change, changing the lives and health status of those who are the least among us will help us change the health status of all Arkansans. At the Minority Health Commission, I'm almost finished. I'm running. I see y'all done ate, you ready, and me too. But anyway, at our commission, we accomplish what we do through outreach efforts, collaboration with other partners, and one of our stronger suits for the last few years has been public policy. We facilitate the Arkansas Minority Health Consortium, which supported and advocated major legislation. You may not even know the legislation that is out there that my board and the people, the legislators, black legislators, Caucasian legislators come together and we work on issues on a day-to-day basis. Let me tell you a few, because I know y'all were asking. Nobody was asking. Okay. Well, let me just tell you one or two anyway. Legislation of health equity that encourages collaborative efforts for the first time require agencies to come together around minority health disparities, in particular in the red counties. And you have this senator right here to thank for that particular legislation that we're working together in those counties. Legislation related to cultural competency and ensuring that public health, people in public health have been trained to meet that diverse crowd that's coming into the facilities. The Minority Health Consortium worked with our partner, the Coalition for Tobacco-Free Arkansas, and so many of you may realize that now you cannot drive in a car with your child and smoke a cigarette because he has no ability to protect himself. The Minority Health Commission was involved in that legislation. In routine screenings for HIV, and one of the most significant pieces of legislation that impacts systemically people that are diagnosed with sickle cell in our state, which are predominantly African American, about 82% of the people in Arkansas, and traditionally are African Americans who have sickle cell. But we advocated for systemic changes that have been advocated under our leadership, which includes Act 909 of 2011. It laid the foundation in creating what is now the Adult Sickle Cell Clinical Program, which began last year at UAMS. Never before had we had a clinic that dealt with adults. You can give yourselves a hand for putting good people in place to fight for you and fight for those citizens. You know, some people say, well, why are y'all focusing on sickle cell? It only impacts about 3,000 or so people. But you know, I believe even one person, if we can get things done to help them. For the first time in Arkansas, we do a great job taking care of our children with sickle cell because they have our kids first. But when they turn 18, they are pretty much have no care. They pretty much are sick. You know, they have episodes of pain, they can't work. And so if you can't work before the Affordable Care Act, you didn't have a way to have insurance to then go see the doctor for this critical issue. But we have that adult clinical program now that is staffed with a dedicated physician. I remember sitting down at the table writing the law and making sure that we included those things in there. We have to have people who will do whatever it takes to help those individuals who put us all in place to make a difference. In addition, the sickle cell registry is now in place in Arkansas. Prior to this program and this legislation, there was no way to know how many people in our state had sickle cell disease. We now have a mechanism to track that information and make sure that we're accomplishing and being able to evaluate these things as we go. I'm so proud of this accomplishment, not because I was involved, because there was a family and there was a wall of believers and visionaries and drum majors in the room who would not give up. You just don't give up. Area Agency on Aging, Pine Bluff, Arkansas taught me a great lesson in my young days, and I'm so happy that I have this opportunity. I'm almost finished. Can you believe it? And another way we utilize this influence is through the Affordable Care Act. The Minority Health Commission have testified. We have done research. We have provided statistics on how this will help populations in our state. One of the things that concerns me that I really need you all to be aware of is that last week, HB 1053, an amendment to do away with, they're wrangling over the big piece of bill, the private option, whether or not they're going to continue to fund it. But there's been an amendment added that if that big bill passes, it's going to attach to it, that basically says that we can no longer do outreach, education, or have in-person assisters on the ground to help people understand the health insurance marketplace. I think it's one of the most regressive and repressive pieces of legislation that I've seen in a long time. Now, you don't have to clap, and there may be reporters in the room, and I may have to answer to this. I see my interim director back there, Freeman McKendra, before I came on board, and sometimes we get in trouble. But I don't know why I'm in this position if I can't say that this law is repressive and it's regressive to the people that we are here to serve. Can you imagine people sending folks to a legislative body? This is whether you're Republican or Democrat, okay? This is whether you're for it or against it. Can you imagine sending people to represent you who you say go and make laws for us, but then they say, we're gonna make a law, but we ain't gonna tell you about it? That's what that law pretty much does. We're gonna have this private option in this Affordable Care Act here in our state, but we're not going to tell people, we're going to keep people ignorant about what the law requires. That's what HB 1053 does. And we've talked with the legislators, but we know that all of it is a lot of politics. And it really doesn't matter if you are Democrat or Republican, something just isn't right about that type of legislation. However, what's interesting, my last slide for you all, is that the private option in Arkansas will help Arkansans of all races. Of all races. And the great majority that will benefit will be non-minority Arkansans, mainly from rural areas of our state. If you look at this chart came from the Urban League and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation in the August 2012 report for Arkansas that indicated that those uninsured adults in Arkansas newly eligible for Medicaid under the ACA with incomes below 138% of poverty, that 67% of those who will benefit are Caucasian Arkansans. That 24.1% of them are African Americans, and 4.5% are Hispanic, and 3.7%. What I want to point out here is that this is not a piece of legislation by a black president who's trying to help black people. This is a legislation that's trying to help poor people, poor working people. And it doesn't matter what race you are, what age you are. This is for all people. And so that's our voice at your legislative body. That's what we help them to see at your legislative body. You know, all of these things work together to improve health care access, health care quality. Those of you out there working in the field, health care equality, whether you're educating and advocating for citizens. You know, but we can't do this alone. The Minority Health Commission, yes, we've done some great things, but I promise you we couldn't have done it by ourselves. We stood on the feet of a lot of dreamers for a lot of years, and thank God we didn't give up and we were able to make some significant changes. You know, I feel blessed today to be entrusted by the Minority Health Board of Commissioners, to be entrusted by the governor, to be entrusted by the legislators, to be one of many drum majors for justice as it relates to health care in Arkansas. But I feel equally humbled to have joined the chorus of drum majors that have been in our state for many years before I ever came on the scene. I feel like I'm standing on their backs, and I want to make sure that while I'm here, that I do the best job that I can do during my tenure. I see the commitment, I see the passion, and I see the vision that many of you still have. We are people who have decided that we want to be a part of making a difference. We want to be a part of looking at the lessons of the past to forge present initiatives and improvements in the health care that will positively impact the future of minority and, as you see, all Arkansans for years to come. I urge everyone here to make a renewed commitment in doing your part to make Arkansas the picture of health, not only in your personal health, but get involved in the overall health of your community, your city, your state, your nation. God bless you and God keep you is my prayer.
Thank you so very much,
Get close to the
Dr. Trotter. We thank you for being a drum major and advocate for all health of Arkansans.
Thank you.
And just as a token of our esteem, affection, and appreciation, on behalf of the School of Agriculture and Fisheries and Human Sciences, we'd like to give you this.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
This has been a beautiful program. We thank all of you who have made this program as it is. At this time, we'd like to have you to turn your attention to the back of the program and show appreciation for all planning committees for this 58th Annual Rural Life Conference. I'd like to, this time, call special attention to one particular person in the audience, and that is Ms. Tamara Ford. Ms. Ford, if you can just please stand wherever you are, and her committee for registration, will you please stand? I'd like to thank all participants on the program, the ones for this morning, in their absence, the Vesper Choir, our Chancellor, Dr. Moore, for her beautiful words of inspiration, all workshop presenters for the concurrent sessions, Dr. Marilyn Bailey for her beautiful words of inspiration during our luncheon ceremony, my Uncle Jack for those beautiful introduction words for our presenter today. Yes. And of course, our wonderful greetings by our beloved former dean and now Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs, Dr. McCray. We also give special thanks for our leader, Dr. James O'Connor, for his leadership of our school. Without him, this could not have been possible, so thank you, Dean. We'd like to thank all navigators at this time and all poster presenters. Hospitality Committee, you are outstanding. Please stand and be well received. And now, it has been my distinct pleasure to serve as your chair on behalf of the host department of the Department of Human Sciences. But I would be remiss if I did not honor our former chairs who are here represented today. Will our former chairs, Dr. Edith Hyman, as well as Dr. Valerie Collier, please stand and be recognized at this time. We hope that the information that you have received at this conference will help you and your families and your communities with living healthier lifestyles and make wiser choices. At this time, the 58th Annual Rural Life Conference is now adjourned. See you next year. Thank you.
Very good, very good.